I work, as Holger says, at the Social and Healthcare College in Aarhus. And our task in society is to educate the short-term social and health educational programs in Denmark. And we are, as all college in Denmark, a part of the general national aim that was set up in the beginning of this millennium, that 95% of all young people should at least have a short-term vocational training. And compared to what we did in the 90s, it is to try now to educate the last 20% that we, in history, had given up to educate because you could find some unskilled jobs. But now the aim is that we need to educate 95% of all in every birth generation. And it created immediately two challenges because we do not succeed. Last year we for the first time managed to have 95% to start directly from primary school into vocational training or gymnasium or other kind, but everyone, 95%, started. But we still lose less and less, but it was clear that when we need to educate the last 20%, we faced two big problems. One was that the reason why we were never educated in the 90s was that we here face students with almost no learning competences. 30% of them cannot read, 50% of them cannot understand what they read. Most of them are not educational during the whole day, cannot sit and listen to a teacher on a board, looking at a board for 6 hours. They are tired at 3 o'clock, at 11 o'clock after 3 lessons. They cannot concentrate, and so on. So it was clear that we faced two things. We faced the consequences of the change in the general health conditions among especially these last 20% of our young people. And we faced this lack of learning competences that they were not able to read. And that made us do make two decisions in 2001 and 2002. One was to say that it should not be a demand that you should be able to read to have a low education in Social and Healthcare College in Aarhus. And that's why we decided to establish social media to use the possibilities that electronic web-based educational material provide for these students, that you can learn about anything without reading. Of course you should be able to read, but you should train that in another place. It should not prohibit that you are not able to have an education. And the other factor was that we need to do something about the general health conditions of these students, because they need to be at the college for 6 or 7 hours, but they were only able to be there for 3. So we forced all our students to have breakfast. Half of our students didn't have breakfast before they came. About 60% of them never eat vegetables. Cola, 30% of them had the first cola before 10 o'clock in the morning. It was what they started on. So we have this sugar problem. And so we made this decision that health on our college should be an easy choice. So you are not asked to do physical exercise, you are forced to do a physical exercise. 2 hours every week we train our students. And we start when we come to the college by making a health profile of every of our students. So they will be aware of the weight, the fit percent, lung capacity, the balance. Most of our students, 10% of our students are not able to stand on one leg. They will fall immediately. And it means something for the learning competences if you are not fit physically. So this was one part, and the other part was to slowly start to change all our... did I think to change? And yeah, okay. Normally we don't think about our students as disadvantaged people, because they are students when they come to us, so they are starting to take an education. But we have to realize that if they don't manage to graduate successfully from our education, in specific our education, because we are, for quite many young people and also people in the 30s, the last decision or the last opportunities. And we know that if you don't succeed in the social and healthcare college in Aarhus, you will be on social welfare the next 5 years. So we are the last chance not to be disadvantaged. So of course we have to change the total learning setup. How do we educate? And if you look, we have quite many students with personal problems, many different diagnoses, many who have been re-educated to another work area, huge number of bad areas. So they have all the characteristics, also the health characteristics we normally put on disadvantaged adults later in life. So what we did was to create social media. So we were the first college to establish a unit of multimedia designers starting to change all the educational material into web-based interactive material. And we supported in the first, if you look on this page, you can go on motion and health at the top. This is the first step that all our students will face. Here is an educational program about how to stay fit, how to start slowly training. And we really mean start slowly. For a lot of our 18 young students, it is regularly walk. Take a walk every day when you are at school, because most of them will never be able to force them into a gym. They get angered, they get anything. And here they put in all the figures that we take, or when we make the condition test, when we make the lung function test, when we put in the weight, so they can follow their own health conditions through the next years. So this is what we practically do to support, that we offer them breakfast, we exercise them, we give them personal advice, sit down, talking about this life, how can you change in your private life, when do you buy, how can you change your food habits and stop smoking. And the other part is of how we try to change all our educational material. This is a web-based educational program about alcohol abuse. And we always do it in two ways, that we reduce basically the number of text. But we always have a factor, a part, and we always have a library, and we always have the storytellings. So these are the three groups. So here you can have a very small presentation of what is, for example, the definition. You can have the symptoms. And you can now also, you can not see it here, but push on the button. You can have, of course, it read loud if you're not able to read yourself. But what is the most important for those people who we can normally say who have very low is that one thing is that you can read it, but can you understand? Understand what does it mean, what you read. And so every issue in every area of our educational program, it is our ambition that this should be presented in what we call private storytellings. Because there are a lot of these people, not only they are not able to read, but they are not able to visualize what in fact they are reading. So what are we talking about when we are talking about a symptom? How does it look in fact? So all areas will be slowly but steady presented by personal storytellings, where we are looking up all kind of clients and all kind of people who have different kind of and what we're trying to do is that some of our students, the 70%, is capable to make what we call an intellectual learning. But most of these young people, for the last 20%, we are more and more talking about how do we learn them emotionally, how to understand empathy, how to understand to meet people, and what is your... so here is the... Here's the the storytelling about a man how he used alcohol as medicine for himself. And this is just one way where we are telling by pictures and music and very small sentences. So this is another way of presenting material where you have the stories of different persons. This is a lady who has got a brain stroke. And here's another example where instead of reading about what it means to have aphasia, we show the students in small sentences, because most of us know how it is to look on a 45 minutes of a social documentary program on television, and we get very emotional when we see these personal stories, and 10 minutes later we are on to something else. When you do it visual and make your own educational material, you can be very, very short and very precise, that we only make movies of 4 minutes because our students cannot accept or have longer stories. And in education matter, it's also about putting attention to what are we talking about when we talk about education. We are not looking on this lady to be angry on the society. We are looking on her to learn what to do about a person who is suffering from this. So here she is telling, and you cannot hear it, but what she is telling is rubbish. Basically, you cannot understand what she is telling. So instead of reading about aphasia, you now listen to a person who are trying to tell how proud she is of her daughter. The daughter has just started, and she's trying to tell it, but the words are not the right because of the disease. So this is another way of make education from paper. So mainly most of our students do not need to read that much anymore. And when we believe that we made this mostly for our not disadvantaged students, but our weak students, the bad readers, it turns out that almost every student prefer, in fact, learn more by visual material. So this is what we are trying to establish to make sure that the last 5% of our students, in fact, at all, are able to have an education. And in that context, it is a part of this history that we believe in Denmark that the strongest tool for a good health and a long life, as you said, is education. And then we need to make it possible also for the people from the 70% to the 95% of a population at all to have an education. No matter they are not able to read, but also to make sure that they in fact are able to stay at the college for 6 or 7 hours, because these young people are not able because they are in bad health. And I think this is what you will talk about. So, yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Niels, for these inspiring examples. How different health education can look in comparison to our normal and traditional ways of teaching and learning.
We have made a national project with another college in Denmark, and where the other college put up the aim for the educators that you are supposed to educate the students in a room without any furniture. Why do we always sit when we need to learn? Was the question. Why do we believe that this way of teaching we created in 1880 is still the best way of teaching? So the teachers had this challenge. You will meet the students in a room without any boards and without any furniture. And you are supposed to teach what you normally teach, but how will you do it? And it was amazing how much physical activity that created, just because
the teacher was not able to prepare themselves to use the board. So suddenly they start to use all the walls, the doors stand open, and they use the walls and the corridor, because this normal way that we always sit, we ask our young students to sit 6 to 7 hours a day. And it was amazing to see what happened. So we removed what is normal in such.